There is a tomb just at the north end of Bethlehem called Rachel's tomb. And it's about that Matthew is alluding here in this text. The text, the biblical text, is about the exile of the Jews as they were going north in exile. Rachel wept for her children. Now, why would Matthew want to put that here? I suppose because of the coincidence of suffering in Bethlehem. And one was because of the exile in punishment for sin, and the other is because someone is trying to murder a child. And I think that Matthew must see this grief, not only of the people, but of the Lord himself, because of the violence of sin. The violence of sin in the conquering of the land and taking everybody off into exile. And the violence of the sin in order to protect his throne, a king can have murdered any young male infant from 2 years and under anywhere around Bethlehem. Just send out the soldiers. And that's kind of violence. And that kind of unbridled power is reason for weeping. Now the children who were killed, as you just read, they're with God. In fact, in the prayer after communion in Latin, talking about their confession, it says, non loquendo sed moriendo confessi sunt. Not by speaking, but by dying, they made their confession of faith. And so, we know that they're fine. This is the day, though, that we commemorate and pray for all the other holy innocents who die by a decree of somebody or other, because their presence is unwanted or inconvenient, and so this is the day that we pray in a particular way, that the Lord change hearts so that there won't be the killing of infants. Because with the killing of infants goes the unbridled sexual indulgence, because if there is a conception, they can always kill it. Now what happens to a group of people when that's their mode of life? What happens to them? It's what John Paul II called the culture of death. Death becomes the solution to every problem. And you see that, huh? In Sudan, these people are in the way, kill them. And it permeates so deeply that here in this city, we used to be the murder capital of the nation. I'm not quite sure whether we still are. But there was an intimate connection, because at that time, and maybe it's still true, we had 3 abortions for every 2 births. So we're already the murder capital. And then from that, see, violence begets violence. Death begets death. And so, for a triviality, the young kill each other. And besides, remember our famous ride-by, drive-by shootings. Violence for no reason. Stories in the paper about two boys, 7th grade, 8th grade, in a fight over a basketball or a basketball shoes or something, and one takes out a gun and kills the other. See, death becomes the solution to everything. And that is what John Paul II meant by a culture of death. That's how you solve everything. Or, at least, by violence and by imprisonment. You see, that's the way you solve things. Well, what happens? The problem that has to be solved becomes less and less weighty. It can be anything. And the solution is death. Now, look the other side, where the solution is life. Jesus went through death and rose again because the solution is life. Now, how do we try to live that out? When our feelings and our thoughts are murderous, negative, we wouldn't probably kill anybody, but we have to stop and love and forgive so that there's life. And when there is life, there is such beauty even in the situation, the suffering, the injustice, the hunger. There can still be joy because of the beauty of human life. I like to think once in a while of God planning the human race. Now, he didn't have to plan. Because he's infinitely wise and infinitely powerful. But just have this positive idea that I will create matter. And matter will participate in my being. I am, and matter is, because I will it to be. It shares in my being. It's amazing. And then I will make creatures who are matter, and in their love for me can bring all this matter back to me in love. And that is our vocation. You see, matter is not to be dominated. It's to be used, but not dominated. We have this strange notion that all knowledge is for domination. There is no other kind of knowledge. When people begin to study philosophy, the first thing they're taught is that the mind is made to know and to rejoice in knowing. That's what it's made for. It's not made to dominate. You see? And we've lost, of course, in our technological, and our universities have become trade schools. Even doctor, lawyer, is a trade. You need certain skills, certain mental, but it's to make money. Once in a while you catch somebody contemplating despite themselves. Parents with a new child. They're looking at this child. They're not going to dominate this child. They're not going to put it to work next week, They're just enjoying the reality of the child. That's the culture of life. That's the culture of life. To enjoy things. And for that, there is required a certain, if you will, poverty of spirit or chastity of spirit. Things are what they are, and they're not there just for me. Whether it be people or anything else, they're not there just for me. They are. And people who live in that wonder are those who spread love. Just the opposite of what happened to these children who were killed just in case one of them might one day want to take the throne away from a madman.